Welcome everyone. I think everyone's in. Let's start because it's time to start. Welcome to my session, Program Your Brain. My name is Muriël Guerard. I work for Capgemini, and I'm currently working at ING as a DevOps engineer. I studied physical therapy and human movement sciences. So let's start with some brain basics because I expect all of you to not be neurologists or neurophysiologists. So let's start with some basics. Brains have been around since the first clumps of cells started to form multi-cell beings and needed to coordinate what they were doing. First brain cells were basic. Their goal was survival. That's the reptile brain. Their goal is to make you eat, sleep, reproduce, and keep all your vital signs going. So when animals started to evolve, this reptile brain was not enough anymore. The first mammals started to live in groups, and they formed social bonds, and in able to do that, they needed a more complex brain. So that's when the mammal brain evolved. The limbic brain, or the mammal brain, regulates emotions like happiness, anger, and sadness, but also basic behavioral patterns. So you repeat a pleasant behavior like eating sugar, and you avoid unpleasant behavior like touching fire. The limbic part of your brain organizes dopamine production and reception. Dopamine is a hormone that gives you a happy feeling, and we'll cover that later. The most recently developed part of the brain is the neocortex. It performs all our complex thinking like planning, learning complex patterns, and analyzing large problems. It also controls the previous two parts of the brain, making it able to say no to a second piece of cake or yes to a presentation, even though it's intimidating, because you know you'll learn in the end. The human brain develops in this order. First the reptile functions, then the mammal functions, and as last the complex functions. That's why a baby can show you when it's hungry or when it's tired, and it can learn to walk all by itself. But it will take until later in childhood to be able to define emotions and learn when to say thank you, which is a basic behavioral pattern. It will take well into the teen years before complex learning skills are developed, and it can take up to 25 years before planning skills and analyzing skills are fully developed. And for some, never. So, why is this important? Why is it a good idea to know some basics about the brain? Because knowledge is power. Do you ever walk somewhere and forget why you walked there? This is what happens when you act on autopilot. Your mammal brain makes decisions based on emotions and primal feelings, and you eat that entire chocolate bar even though you should have only taken a few pieces. Of course, you can inhibit those urges with your neocortex. The problem is that the neocortex uses a lot of energy. It can only do so much in one day. After a day of complex thinking, the neocortex is tired and it will not say no when you have urges, so you will eat all the chocolate or all the chips. Your reptile brain wants to survive, and the easiest way to survive is to do things of which you know that they're safe. When you want to change your ways and you want to learn something new, your neocortex has to suppress your reptile brain and tell yourself, hey, this is safe, it's safe to learn something new, you won't die. So it needs to suppress all other brain regions and form new connections, synapses, and store all this new information. Learning things can make your brain use up to 20% of your total energy usage. This is why learning things is really exhausting, and this is why teenagers sleep in bed all day, because they're forming new brain synapses. So, neuron anatomy. A neuron has a cell body from which multiple dendrites, that's the little short little sticks, collect input, and when the threshold's reached, then the neuron fires a small pulse along its axon to the destination. One cell can be up to 1 meter long. It can either reach from your brain all the way to the bottom of your spine or from the bottom of your spine to the tip of your toes. Neurons are a fast way to communicate, but they don't last long. This is ideal for telling your muscles when to contract and when to relax, because you don't want that to last really long. You want to be able to grasp something and let it go when you want. So, also, the brain can form new connections between cells. The brain cells themselves are created during embryo development. As soon as you're born, the amount of neurological cells that you have will only decrease. After birth, brain development consists of developing the actual cells, so that's making new dendrites and making new axons, and making new connections between existing cells. If you play piano, then parts of your brain coordinating finger movement will make more connections. Also, your brain will appoint extra cells to the parts of your brain that make those finger movements. This also happens with blind people. When they have cells for sight, they're not used, and those cells don't just sit around doing nothing, they get allocated to a new job, like processing sound or processing touch. Oh. Your brain is always able to make new connections its entire life. This means you can always learn new things. It does get harder when you're older because it's harder to rewire old connections than set up entirely new ones. So another way for the brain to communicate is through hormones and neurotransmitters. The nice things about hormones is that they last longer than a neurotransmitter because they're distributed through the bloodstream. The downside of hormones is also that they last longer. When something nice happens, dopamine is released. And that's a neurotransmitter. It makes you feel happy and it makes you want to repeat whatever you just did. Because it feels so nice, it's addictive. Dopamine does not cross the blood-brain barrier, so it means it's created in the brain and it stays in the brain. It doesn't reach the rest of your body. Norepinephrine, also called noradrenaline, arouses the brain. It helps you focus and remember new and important things. This is released when something exciting happens or when your body gets ready for a fight or flight response. Serotonin is released when you're relaxed, but also when you learn something new. It rewards the brain for learning new things, and it stimulates cognition and memory. Adrenaline is produced when you face acute stress. It's a little bit of a strange neurotransmitter because it's also a hormone. Not only does it make individual neurons more sensitive to stimuli, which make them react faster to influences from the outside world, but also it gets your whole body ready for a fight or flight response. It increases blood flow, it cuts blood from the intestines and sends it to the muscles, and wakes up primal parts of the brain to assess the danger. So hormones are for slow and general communication. Like cortisol, it's distributed when you're in a non-acute stressful situation. It means you react to stimuli faster. The production of cortisol is triggered by adrenaline. It has many of the same effects, but it lasts longer. This is really nice when there's danger around, like you're living in a cage and there might be a bear because you saw some footprints or you saw some bear poop lying around. First, you make adrenaline to find out if the bear is close right now, and you look out for when the bear comes back. But when it's not there, your body will make cortisol to make you stay on edge and stay on the lookout for when the bear comes back later. Because it's distributed through the bloodstream and your entire body is on edge, it means anything small that happens in your body gets like an hyper reaction. So if you're on cortisol and you get a little cut in your finger, it might get inflamed easier, even though there's really nothing bad going on. It's exhausting for the brain to get all these exaggerated stimuli in one day. In modern day, cortisol and adrenaline are still triggered by stress, but much of our stress is not life-threatening. Your brain can't help but treat all your stress as life-threatening. Even though it's just a deadline, your brain thinks there's like a bear standing behind you. To cancel out the effects of cortisol and adrenaline, oxytocin is used. When you see someone you love or when somebody touches you, oxytocin is released into your body and it gives your mind a break. It works as an antidepressant. So, this is a lot of new knowledge. So I would like everybody to just close their eyes, take a few deep breaths, reset, restore. Okay. Ready to continue. So what's so special about programming? Even though coding is usually considered to be mathematical and very exact by many people, research has shown that experienced programmers use the same brain areas when reading and writing code as when they're reading or writing any other speaking language. Therefore, you should approach learning code just like learning any other language, by submerging yourself in it. Lectures only result in 5% knowledge retention after 24 hours. Audiovisual presentations like this one reach about 20% of knowledge retention. So the best way to learn is to discuss your knowledge with peers, to actually practice a subject you're trying to learn, or even better, to teach other people, because that's the best way to retain knowledge. So first-time coders are advised to start learning a visual coding language. Research has shown that these languages are significantly faster to learn than other types of languages, because visual languages have object-oriented and procedural characteristics. Formal operative cognition is required, but because you're not manipulating abstract objects but visual objects on a screen, it's easier to comprehend for concrete thinkers. Formal operative cognition is a skill that's usually developed in the brain from age 12 and up. It helps people understand easy comparisons, like if Kelly's taller than Ali, then Ali's taller than Joe, then who's the tallest? To understand that, you have to have a formal operative cognition. For students who find visual coding languages easy, it's recommended to proceed to object-oriented languages. As Java enthusiasts, we already know this, but these languages require abstract and logical thinking, a high level of cognitive development, and a high level of problem-solving skills. People who have a dominant left brain hemisphere tend to do well on these languages. The left side of the brain is usually considered to do more abstract thinking, and the right side of the brain does more creative thinking. Was visual coding a little bit hard for you? Then consider learning a script language. Because of the immediate feedback of visual elements on the screen, it's a good alternative for people who find object-oriented programming too hard. English-like statements can be used to tell the computer what to do. Creative people with a dominant right hemisphere are hypothesized to do well in these languages. So what do we do to our brain on a daily level? As mentioned before, thinking with your neocortex costs a lot of energy. The brain is not made to work on a high level all day. It wants to use the automated neural patterns as much as possible. Not only do we think a lot, compared to other predators like lions and wolves, we're awake a long time. The pressure of deadlines drives us to go on all night, and adrenaline and cortisol keep us going. Also, our basic diet is not as good as it used to be. The human body is great in dealing with a shortage of food, but nowadays there's no shortage of food. Your body does not understand this, and you will keep on craving for fat and sugar. When you're under stress, you usually develop a bad diet. This has a few main reasons. Firstly, easy food is not healthy food. And secondly, when your brain is working hard, it wants fast energy. Food that generates fast energy for the brain is sugary food. Muscles can digest sugar as well as protein as well as fat, but the brain actually only runs on sugar. So it will always want sugar first. Sugary and fatty foods stimulate the release of dopamine, because back when we were cave dwellers, high caloric food meant that we had better chances of survival. Also, programming is done behind a computer, and we spend a lot of time sitting. We all know that sitting is bad for the body, but it's also bad for the brain. Moving stimulates the release of relaxing hormones and neurotransmitters, so prolonged sitting creates a shortage of happy hormones. So what can we do with all this knowledge to use our brains more effectively? First of all, get enough sleep. When you can't get enough sleep, or at least any sleep, get any sleep, research has shown that after pulling an all-nighter, people who sleep at least 20 minutes, go back to work, are able to work significantly more effective than people who kept going all night. So if you have the choice between going all night or taking a short nap, take the short nap. Sleeping may seem like a waste of time, but in the end, your work will get done faster if you have some proper sleep. You should also eat at regular times. Don't keep going on an empty stomach. Muscles and cells like sugar, protein, and fat, but the brain only likes sugar. That doesn't mean you should switch to eating only sugar all day, but you need to try and keep your blood sugar levels steady. So we'll get to that later. Also, move. Walking is done through a primal neural circuit in a reptile part of the brain. This means that when you're walking, your neocortex gets a break. Walking is proven to stimulate creativity, and if you're not doing it, to stimulate creativity. So if you're looking for a creative solution and you go out and take a walk to get that creative solution, it's not going to work. But if you're just going to take a walk with no goal, then your background threads in your brain will start doing creative things. Also, when you're walking, you raise serotonin levels in the brain, which helps you relax. So you can walk around like a headless chicken, which is missing its neocortex, but not the primal central spine, which is why it can walk around but not think. What also works is a good workout. It should be heavy enough for you not to be able to think while you're doing it. So some intense cycling or team sport keeps you busy and requires your attention is a good idea. Well, social interaction is also a good idea. It releases all kinds of relaxing hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain, like serotonin and oxytocin. Genuine laughing, but not fake laughing, relaxes your brain. The same goes for cuddling your partner, your child, but also your pet. If you love animals, it works with any animal. If you don't have any of those options available, book a massage, because the hormones generated with either a massage or a hug or whatever help you cancel out the negative effects of cortisol and adrenaline. It helps your body recuperate from stressful moments. There's nothing wrong with stress. Your body is just not so good, or your brain is not so good at handling prolonged stress all the time. Make sure that when you're under pressure, you also take time to relieve some pressure. So time box your stressful moments. Give yourself 5 or 10 minutes to take a break, walk around, talk to a colleague, cuddle your pet, and then get going again. What also helps to keep your brain happy is be bored. Put down your addictive phone and just stare around. Do something that's repetitive and boring. Watch old reruns of a comedy show, which has the added bonus of a smile now and then. And your main thread of your brain gets bored, and then your background threads can finally get through and release all the creativity. So how can we think more effectively? To use all this knowledge to advantage, we now know how the brain loves dopamine and serotonin. So by knowing this, we can try and trick our reptile brain and our mammal brain into learning and remembering the things we wanted to learn and remember, and even make our work more fun. First of all, keep it short. Don't allow your brain to get sidetracked by long bouts of staring at a computer screen. Make learning or working fun for your brain by giving it what it wants most, dopamine. Who here has played Candy Crush? Quite some people. Do you know why people play this simple and boring game for 1,000 levels? Because Candy Crush is designed to be drugs for your brain. All these short levels with their bright lights and all their colory firework things and all their way to go compliments, they generate a small peak of dopamine every time you complete a level. Your brain thinks, hey, this is fun, I did good. And then you want to play another level. So try to apply the same strategy to your work. You wrote a complex method? Applaud yourself, treat yourself. Say, yay, it's done, good job for me. And if you really want to stimulate your brain, have a cookie or have some sugar. Don't get stressed out by deadlines. Being stressed raises adrenaline and cortisol levels, making the brain less likely to remember new things or come up with solutions to problems. When you feel stressed, remember to plan some relaxation time. Just 5 minutes of doing something fun, spending time with a pet or chatting with a colleague can reduce your stress and get your brain ready to process new information. When you feel like you're stuck on a problem, take a break, do something that doesn't cost much brain power, and let the background threads of your brain work out a solution. Also, don't try to overstuff your brain with new information. Learn something new by putting it to practice, take a short break, and don't think. A power nap works really good, but also sitting in a dark room with no stimuli for 7 minutes has been proven to increase the memory threefold. But it also might be a little bit hard to put that to practice. Take about 30-minute walk with limited thinking, like walking your dog or just casually chatting to a coworker. A well-rested brain learns best, so also get enough sleep. So we already talked about multi-threading earlier and how the brain processes things in the background. Well, brains are really good at background operations, but it cannot keep two foreground threads running at the same time. Trying to think about two problems at the same time is just going to solve the quality of your thinking on both subjects. Try to tell yourself to solve one problem first, and when that's done, solve the second problem. You can even time box the thinking on each problem. Also, try to limit the use of distracting things like a smartphone, email, and social media. Of course, I can hear you thinking nobody's not going to use their phone all day, but I'm not telling you not to do it all day. Just time box things. So work on your problem for 5 minutes, then use your phone, and work on your problem for 10 minutes. And each time you reach a goal, reward yourself. So how can we enhance the brain? The brain is a really powerful organ just like that. But if you want to enhance it, there's a few tested ways out there. You can try to add some food, because when you're high on sugar, then the brain works better. It does work better. It boosts all function. And it also gives you a dopamine peak. But when your tongue tastes sugar, also your liver starts producing insulin. Dopamine makes your brain feel great about eating sugar. Insulin helps process the sugar peak. The higher the peak, the more dopamine and insulin is produced. This means that eating a large amount of sugar makes you feel really great, but all the insulin that you produce quickly lowers the sugar level in your blood. And it's creating the sugar crash, which you see at the end of the cycle again. After processing all the sugar, you feel down because there's no more dopamine, and also your blood sugar's gone. So you feel like you need to snack again. And to keep your blood sugar level steady, you can either snack again and go up and down and keep doing that all day, or you can try to keep the level steady by eating whole grain products and products that have not too much processed sugar. Also, you can have some candy, you can have sugar, it's fine, just don't eat entire bags. Caffeine works in a similar way as the sugar cycle. It wakes you up and it boosts your brain really fast. But by adding caffeine to your system, your brain really starts to rely on a certain level of boosters to become active. After they've worn off, your brain is extra tired. So caffeine works as a short-time booster. Just remember to let your brain rest after using caffeine. And also keep in mind it influences your blood sugar cycle and will make you more prone to snack on unhealthy things. Well, third thing people try is alcohol. Who's had their best ideas on alcohol? Really best ideas? That's impressive. Apart from influencing the blood sugar cycle, just like sugar and caffeine, alcohol also works directly on the brain by inhibiting the neocortex. That makes it harder to do complex thinking. Also, your mammal brain and your reptile brain become more dominant. So you react slower and you're more inclined to react in a primal way. So you can either pick a fight more easily or you can fall in love with a bad idea more easily. Are there other things we can do? Well, there's some legal drugs that claim to boost brain power. Usually they contain hormones or neurotransmitters or caffeine or sugar. Most of them have little to no effect, but they can throw your brain off their natural rhythm, so be careful. Then there's illegal drugs. Most illegal drugs are designed to give you a nice feeling. There's also only one illegal drug that actually boosts brain power, and that's cocaine. Cocaine boosts focus and it keeps you going when you're tired. It's like sugar and caffeine combined in super force. Research in rodents has shown that the brain starts forming new connections within an hour of using cocaine. The brain becomes more effective at processing information, and of course that sounds great, but there's a downside. These new neural pathways that are created when you're on cocaine can only be used when you're on cocaine. Also, the existing pathways that you had start functioning less well. So it might supercharge your brain while you're on cocaine, but as soon as it wears off, you're actually dumber than before. So I would not try that to boost your brain on a permanent basis. Well, then there's also things like brain games. in the Sudokus and trainings. Well, this subject has been researched a lot, and so far they found that brain games and Sudokus really make your brain better at brain games and Sudokus. And that's it. So there's no downside, but you're not going to be a better developer by doing a lot of Sudokus. Only thing that seems to work is meditation. Meditation has a positive effect, as research has shown, because people who meditate regularly have lower amount of stress hormones in their body, making it easier for their brain to relax. People who meditate and start meditation for 5 minutes a day increase their working memory capacity and ability to focus within 3 weeks. So it's a relatively cheap and easy way to boost your brain. How can we exercise our brain? Well, let's get started by putting it to practice. I don't know if this is going to work.
We've established that stressful situations take their toll on our physical and mental well-being. So what happens when we feel stressed for prolonged periods of time? Continuous stressful situations cause stress on the body, which can result in physical pain, such as shoulder, back, or stomach pains, headaches, and even problems sleeping. Sometimes we do things that aren't good for us in order to deal with this pain. Some try to lessen the stress by eating too much. Others get angry and blame their surroundings. In order to prevent stress from building up in our body, sometimes we need to help our body get rid of all the stress. Physiologist Edmund Jacobson invented a simple method to relieve tension. According to Jacobson's method, we should contract all the important muscles in our body in order to relax them. This method is fun and can be practiced anywhere, anytime. Each time we will choose a different part of our body, contract it for 5 seconds, and then relax it. Pay attention that you do not hold your breath while you are contracting your muscles. Let's start with the legs. Raise your legs in the air and contract your muscles. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now relax your muscles. How do your legs feel now? Has anything changed? Now let's try the stomach. Tighten your stomach until it feels like it is sticking to your back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Let's move on to the hands. Clench your hands into a fist and contract. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Now let's continue with the arms. Bend your arms against your body and contract the muscles. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Next up, the shoulders. Shrug your shoulders up against your ears as tight as you can. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Moving on to the neck. Lower your head down towards your chest. Count down 5 seconds. Make sure that you relax your neck slowly and not all at once. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Continuing with the neck. Gently turn your neck to the right. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And now gently turn your neck to the left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Moving to the face. Clench your jaw together as hard as you can, as if you're biting down on something. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Close your eyes tightly. Don't open them until we say so. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Now tense your eyebrows so that you look real worried or angry. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax. Now let's move on to the forehead. Look surprised. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax. Ready to smile? Smile now and hold that smile. I mean really smile. Count down 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax. And that's it. We're finished. Don't you feel a little different? A bit more relaxed? Next time you do this exercise, it's best to go over each set of exercises twice. Finally, try to practice this relaxation method as often as you can.
Physical exercise. So everybody get up. Yep, seriously. Touch the floor and jump 5 times. So down and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Everybody's awake? Good. Because we're going to do a pop quiz. A pop quiz. You can sit down. That's okay. You can sit down. You can stand also. It's better for you, actually. There we go. Who wants to be in? Oh, still a few more. Still going up. Is this it? Is everyone in? Okay, let's start. So brain development is so the blue and green answer were both right, making new connections and also cells changing function. So next question. Oh, first the score, of course. Which hormone or neurotransmitter makes you happy? So this is kind of a trick question, guys. What's a good way to retain knowledge? Only one wrong answer. That's pretty good. So, there we go. True or false? Neurotransmitters are also a kind of a hormone. It's true. Neurotransmitters are hormones, but not all hormones are neurotransmitters. How do you use dopamine to learn better? These are all good tips, but the top two actually work on dopamine. The other two are different parts of the brain. So Coffee Bart still doing good? Learning to program is like learning a new language. It was true. Still Coffee Bart. How do you stimulate creativity? Take a walk. Still Coffee Bart. The brain can go on for days. It's actually false. The brain really needs a break. What part of the brain uses the most energy? Neocortex, the new part of the brain, the human part, or primate part. How can you enhance your brain's performance? Right, cocaine, but that's not one of the answers. Meditation. Last question. A good way of using multiple threads in the brain is? Being bored, because then your background threads get to do some work. Good. Coffee Bart, you won. Good job. This was it. Who has any questions? No questions? Oh, yes. In the back. Ritalin. I don't exactly know, to be honest. Ritalin, I don't think it works directly on any of the neurotransmitters we discussed. Maybe dopamine, though. But I think it's a different hormone it works on. Because the whole... Right, it makes you more focused, but it only works for people who have ADHD, because if it doesn't, because as far as I know, if you don't have the neural pathways associated to ADHD, then the drug can actually make you more hyper. That's what I heard. Right. Right. Yeah, I do know it works in two ways. Like if you have ADHD, or at least if your brain works like that, then the Ritalin makes you extra focused and more like the average brain. But if you have a more average brain, then it does something else. But whole neurophysiology is a really complex and extensive subject, so I don't know exactly how Ritalin works. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks for being here.